Alright guys, today we are going to review a little bit our template for our linoleum prints. I'm going to speed through that, and then we're going to talk about positive, negative space, and then to wrap things up we're going to get into carving 101 for the linoleum blocks that we're going to be carving into here in a class period of 2. So to review, you took your template paper and you folded it in half 2 times to make 4 even quadrants. You drew yourself 5 or 7 shapes. Some could float in the center, some needed to touch the edge, but they were big shapes. So there's 5. I'm going to then fold it either way. Let's just fold it this way. Do a pressure rubbing with the back of my ebony pencil. Open it up. I should be able to see the image. Trace over it. And the reason the ebony pencil is good for this is because it puts so much graphite onto the paper. It's real nice and dark. So I'm going to fold it the opposite way now. Rub, 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 rub. If for some reason it doesn't transfer for you, goodness gracious, then fold it again and re-rub. So I can see where this is supposed to be, but if I couldn't, I would just fold my paper again and redo it. So let's pretend this is all traced over. We would then lay this face down onto our block, our linoleum block, do a rubbing, pull it up, pull it up, okay, trace over it with ebony pencil once again because your lines are going to be real faint. You are going to also write your name and class code on one of the small sides with an ultra fine point Sharpie marker. Okay. Once you have this done, we need to talk about positive and negative space. So, positive space is the object, and negative space is the area behind the object. Before we do any carving, we need to, on our template, decide if we want to carve out the positive shapes or carve out the negative shapes. So if we remove the positive shapes, such as this, I don't know, E, M, W, however you want to look at it, 3, that would end up being the color of the paper, and the background then would be the color of whatever ink you apply to it. If you remove the background, these shapes would remain and be printed the color of the ink, and the background would be the color of the paper. So positive would be this here, and here, and here. And you are going to do this with your ebony pencil. This is why we saved our template, just so that we don't mess up when it comes to the linoleum. Rather you make a whoops here. Okay. This one is 2 parts. So this is the positive, negative. Same thing with this. So you can't have 2 shaded areas touching each other. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here, but I'm just going to mark out the spaces or shapes that I'm going to be removing with my ebony pencil. Okay. Now, if I went the opposite direction, I could say I'm cutting out the areas without the X's. But either way, I think it's easier if you just mark out your positive shapes, mark them, and then you're going to decide next class if you are cutting out your positive shapes or the negative space behind it. All right. Once we have that done, we're going to talk about carving tools. We have several. Okay. These are linoleum block carving tools. The ends, I don't know if you can see that, are pointed. This one's itty bitty. This one is kind of pointed like a V. This one is more of a shallow, or I'm sorry, not really shallow, but a smaller U. And this one is a really wide U. So I have them for the most part color coded. This maroon one, which is itty bitty, is only for teeny tiny areas. Outlining and itty bitty teeny tiny areas. You will not be using this one a whole lot. My favorite is actually the narrow V. The blue is my favorite. It gets a real nice deep line, but doesn't dig into your linoleum like the liners do. These guys dig in a little bit. I'll show you. This is the U. It removes a nice chunk, but doesn't come to a point. And this one is a deeper U. This is used for removing large areas. Okay, so I'm going to show you the liner and what I mean by removing large chunks. So, actually, let's rewind. A few things about these linoleum tools. They are blades at the end of a handle. So, very important that safety, we keep that in mind when we're working with these. The tool rule in the classroom, if you take a look over at the bulletin board, has been hanging there all year, has a nice pair of scissors hanging above it, goes something like this. I will cut away from myself and never have my hand in the path of a blade, cutter, or any tool that could hurt me. I will follow rules and keep myself and others safe. That has been there all year. That really applies to this project. When you are using these, you want to make sure that your hand is never in the path of your cutting tool. It is always going to be to the side of your cutting tool. Let's also talk about how you hold your cutting tool. Open your hand, put this in the palm, and wrap your hand around. It glides along the surface. It does not dig into the surface. It removes a top layer of skin off the linoleum. Okay? Skin of the linoleum, not your skin. Okay? The reason that I say that the super fine cutting tool gouges is because it's very easy to dig. It's a little bit more challenging to have this glide. But I'm going to try to show you. You're going to take the round part, wrap your fingers around, and you would glide right along the top. And you have this little itty bitty scrap of linoleum. See that teeny tiny, if this will focus? It might not focus for me. Nope. Teeny tiny cut. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with my blue tool. I like this one for lining personally. In the palm of my hand, wrap my fingers around it. This hand is out of the way. I'm going to try that same line again. So it's over to the side. I'm going to glide right along that surface. Stop where my line bends. Glide. If you get real good, you can kind of just turn it. Always a pushing, never a pulling action. Okay. Pushing. Pushing. And yes, you are going to have these little scraps at the end of class. See these little guys here? So you're going to have to pile those up at the end of class and throw them out. Now, I could continue to remove this with my blue V point. However, it comes to a point. The blade actually comes like that. Something like a U is a little bit more scooped. It is used for removing large areas. I do not want to go too far down. Another student in another class is using the back of this. So if I dig through my linoleum, you are either going to ruin their design or make it so that the back can't be used. Okay. So you are just removing, do you see how this is a darker gray and that's a lighter gray underneath? You are never going to go more than one pass deep. If you accidentally go over, the only way to fix it is to kind of redo your line. Not deeper, but beside it to smooth it out. So what I would recommend doing is getting a lining tool that you're comfortable with. If I were doing large areas like the background, I might pick one of these to start with. Probably this guy or this guy is your best bet. And line your shapes. Pushing, never pulling. Hand always out of the way. Okay. And then once I am done lining everything, I would go through and start removing the areas, either with the X's if you're doing your positive, or without the X's if you are doing the negative space. When you are carrying these to your seat, do not hold them out so that it could accidentally jab somebody. Carry them down like you would a pair of scissors. We aren't running, we aren't crowding people, we're taking our time, we're being careful. This is a very adult tool, and we don't want to misuse it. We don't want to mistreat it. We don't want to ruin it for others. This is a very fun project. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We just need to know how to use them safely and handle them with care and respect. When it is time to clean up, these are going to get put away in the appropriate bin. Your linoleum is going to get gathered up, wiped into your hand, and thrown in the garbage. These guys are going to go in a pile with your name facing out on the clay table, and that should actually do it. Let's hang on to these for the time being, just until we have this completely carved, in case there is a question or something smears, or, knock on wood, this doesn't happen, somebody accidentally digs too far down on the opposite side and you have to transfer this back onto a piece of linoleum. We're going to need this template. Okay? So that is it, guys. You're going to go back to your tables, and we are going to pass out the templates. You are going to either finish your rubbings, making your template, or start your positive and negative space, and go from there.